The House of Representatives endorsed the government's policies and programs late last night. Main opposition CPI-ML consented to clear the obstructions after it was finally agreed to remove the accusation raised by a CPN Maoist lawmaker against CPI-ML and its chairperson KP Sharma Oli about the alleged massive financial embezzlement regarding gold plating at the Pashupatinath temple. Good morning, I'm Praram Madhal. Let's begin with the main stories. Government policies and programs for the upcoming fiscal year endorsed by the House of Representatives with majority. The meeting of the House of Representatives slated for 1 p.m. today. Former Prime Ministers and Ministers for Foreign Affairs to furnish recommendations for Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal's upcoming India visit. Premier Dahal leaving for India on the 31st of May. Turks vote today in a momentous presidential runoff to decide whether or not Recep Tayyip Erdogan should remain in power after 20 years. Opposition terms the vote as a referendum on future. And Team Nepal playing Uzbekistan for the third place at the Kava Women's Volleyball Challenge Cup. India take on Kazakhstan in the tournament final later today. Government is set to present the budget for the upcoming fiscal year at the Parliament tomorrow. Meanwhile, Minister for Finance Prakash Mahath is scheduled to present the financial survey in the Parliament today. Finance Minister Mahath will present the financial survey of the upcoming fiscal during the meeting of the House of Representatives that has been scheduled for 1 p.m. today. Likewise, yesterday's meeting of the House of Representatives endorsed the government's policies and programs. There is a general concern regarding the budget for the upcoming fiscal at a time when the government is facing difficulty in addressing the looming economic crisis. The capital expenditure and tax collection has been weak. Government's tax collection has been limited to only 56% of its target, while the ongoing fiscal year will end in 1.5 months. The Office of the Financial Comptroller has said that tax collection has remained less than 8 billion rupees. Likewise, the government has failed to exceed 150 billion rupees in terms of capital expenditure, which is only 36% of the annual target. Now, Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal is holding political and diplomatic consultations for his upcoming India visit. A meeting of former Prime Ministers, senior leaders and former Ministers for Foreign Affairs is slated for 2 p.m. today to seek recommendations for the Prime Minister's India visit, which is slated to begin on the 31st of May. Meanwhile, another meeting of former secretaries of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is scheduled for 3 p.m. Prior to this, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Nepal and the Ministry of External Affairs of India had published about the 4-day state visit of Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal to India. It is now time for a short break, but for more news, do stay with us. Government preparations to form the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which is to be presented at the Parliament this Monday, is at its final stage. However, the tax rate will be finalized this evening. According to the Ministry of Finance, the draft of the budget is at its final stage. Finance Minister Prakash Mahath has said that he has been meeting Prime Minister on a daily basis to inform him about the issues included in the budget and to receive his suggestions on what to add. The personal secretariat of the Finance Minister has informed that the Finance Minister, along with high-ranking officials of the ministry, have been working long hours to incorporate the Prime Minister's suggestions into the budget. It has been said that the budget volume will shrink this time around as the budget ceiling of most ministries have been reduced. All projects are in the priority list of the budget, as the National Planning Commission has urged to make the budget of the Ministry of Physical Infrastructures below 100 billion rupees. New projects have not been included. The Ministries of Urban Development, Tourism and Drinking Water have also proposed programs for the budget by concluding the old programs. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development has also proposed less budget for programs compared to last year, except for chemical fertilizers. The National Planning Commission has already said that the budget will be centered on projects that will give results within a year and half of the budget of a few projects. Meanwhile, the National Resource Estimate Committee has suggested a budget volume of 1,688 billion rupees. In our public voice segment, we have asked people in several provinces what should be the top priority of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Let's now take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
प्राथमिकता चाहिँ स्वास्थ्यलाई दिनुपर्छ र अर्को प्राथमिकता भनेको रोजगारलाई दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ।
पर्यटनलाई विशेष प्राथमिकतामा राख्नुपर्ने देखिन्छ।
पर्यटन र उद्योगमा केन्द्रित गरिकन रोजगार उत्पादन गर्ने।
कृषि र पर्यटनमा सरकारले एकदम फोकस गर्न एकदमै जरुरी छ। स्वास्थ्य र शिक्षा यसमा चाहिँ बजेटको सबभन्दा बढी प्राथमिकता हुनुपर्ने
निश्चित लक्षित वर्गको लागि आउनुपर्छ र अन्य ठुला वर्गको लागि जरुरत छैन।
कृषि प्रधान देश भएको कारणले कृषिलाई प्रायोरिटी दिने, कृषिलाई अनुसन्धानमूलक बनाउने।
1 नम्बरमा शिक्षा है, 2 नम्बरमा स्वास्थ्य, अनि यो बेरोजगार युवाहरूको लागि
सबभन्दा बढी बजेट दिएर मधेसलाई चाहिँ विकास गर्न एकदम नितान्त आवश्यक छ।
कृषिलाई पहिलो प्राथमिक रूपमा लिनुपर्छ।
पहिलो शिक्षा, त्यसपछि स्वास्थ्यमा।
वैदेशिक रोजगार भन्दा पनि नेपालमै के गर्न सकोस् भनेर नेपालीहरूलाई पनि अलिकति हेर्नु पर्यो कि यसपालि चाहिँ।
स्वास्थ्य, शिक्षा र कृषिमा चाहिँ बढी जोड दिएर ल्याउनुपर्छ।
कृषिमा दिनुपर्छ है, पर्यटकीमा दिनुपर्छ।
महिलाहरूलाई रोजगारी सृजना कसरी गर्ने, प्रबन्धन कसरी गरेर लाने भन्ने विषयमा चाहिँ विशेष चाहिँ फोकस गर्नुपर्छ।
सबैभन्दा धेरै लगानी नै उत्पादनशील क्षेत्रमा आउनुपर्छ।
It is now time for our segment Public Polls, where you text us with your opinion.
Public poll.
The question is, what could be the reason for the dilly-dallying in the investigations carried out by the CIAA? Your options are A, political influence, B, questionable capabilities, and C, lack of human resources. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for the international news. Turks vote today in a momentous presidential runoff to decide whether or not Recep Tayyip Erdogan should remain in power after 20 years. His challenger, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, backed by a broad opposition alliance, has billed the vote as a referendum on Turkey's future direction. The president, who is favored to win, promises a new era uniting the country around a Turkish century. But the more pressing issue is rampant inflation and a cost of living crisis. Polling stations open at 8 a.m. local time and close at 5 p.m. The big vote from expats carried out around the world has already finished. Turnout in the first round was an impressive 88.8%, and Mr. Erdogan's lead was 2.5 million votes. That is why both candidates have their eye on the 8 million who did not vote but could this time. Ahead of the runoff, Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu accused his rival of foul play by blocking his text messages to voters while the president's messages went through. Opposition parties are deploying an army of volunteers in a bid to ensure no vote rigging takes place. International observers spoke of an uneven playing field after the first round. But there was no suggestion that any irregularities in voting would have changed the result. Turkey, however, is deeply polarized, with the president reliant on a support base of religious conservatives and nationalists, while his opposite number supporters are mainly secular, but many of them are nationalists too. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today inaugurated the new parliament building and installed a historic sculpture Sengol near the Lok Sabha Speaker's chair. A puja and a multi-faith prayer were held on the occasion. He also unveiled a commemorative plaque for the new building. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Adinam Sears were present at the event. The Sears handed over the Sengol to Prime Minister Modi, who walked into the new parliament building and installed it. A puja and a multi-faith prayer were held on the occasion. He also unveiled a commemorative plaque for the new building. Built in front of the colonial era parliament, the new four-story building, built at an estimated cost of 9.7 billion Indian rupees, has increased seating capacity. The Lok Sabha chamber, which will seat the lower house of the parliament, is designed in the likeness of a peacock, India's national bird. The Rajya Sabha chamber, which will seat the lower house, resembles the lotus, India's national flower. On Wednesday, 19 parties, including the main opposition Congress, announced their collective decision to boycott the inauguration ceremony. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and party leader Rahul Gandhi said that the building should have been inaugurated by President Draupadi Murmu, the parliament's highest constitutional authority. Congress MP Jairam Ramesh also criticized the government's decision to hold the event on the birth anniversary of the man Savarkar, who opposed Mahatma Gandhi vehemently all his life. Head of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR Filippo Grandi on Saturday called for an immediate ceasefire between both sides of the ongoing conflict in Sudan to create conditions for humanitarian access to conflict-afflicted areas. Humanitarian aid agencies now stand ready to provide assistance to the people of Sudan, but the real solution lies in the hand of both sides in the conflict, Grandi has said. Grandi further urged the two sides to act in the interests of the country and the people in a bid to ease the humanitarian disaster triggered by the conflict. The deadly unrest broke out on April 15 in Sudan's capital and adjoining cities. The crisis stems from a disagreement over the integration of a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) into Sudan's army as part of a transition towards civilian rule. Representatives of the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAR) and the paramilitary RSF signed the agreement on a 7-day ceasefire for humanitarian purpose, according to a statement from the Saudi side. The agreement entered into force at 9:45 p.m. Khartoum time on the 22nd of May, 48 hours after the signing. But fighting has continued in some areas, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the agreement. A report published by the International Organization for Migration on Wednesday shows that the fighting in Sudan has forced over 1.3 million to flee their homes, including nearly 320,000 refugees. Well, more news coming up, but right now it is time for yet another short break. Welcome back. Time now for the sports news.
Sports news.
Hosts Nepal are playing Uzbekistan for the third place at the National Sports Council Central Asian Volleyball Association KAVA Women's Volleyball Challenge Cup. The third place match between Nepal and Uzbekistan began at 11 a.m. at the National Sports Council's covered hall in Tripureshwar. Team Nepal had crashed out from the semi-finals following a 5-set defeat against Kazakhstan. Having lost the first set, Nepal had made a good comeback to lead 2-1 before losing the fourth and fifth set. Meanwhile, Uzbekistan had suffered a straight-set defeat against India in the other semi-final. Nepal had seen off Uzbekistan to win the Central Zone title back in the year 2021. Team Nepal are coached by John Dubrant and led by skipper Aruna Sai. Following the completion of the tournament, Nepal will begin preparations for their maiden participation at the Asian Games. India take on Kazakhstan in the tournament final later today. The title decider between the two sides will begin at 4 p.m. Up next is the weather update. That is all for the moment. Our next English bulletin is at 6 p.m. We'll now take you back to the live coverage of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Women's Volleyball Challenge Cup from the Dashat Stadium's covered hall in Tripureshwar. Have a beautiful day ahead.